Welcome to Acapulco.
What's happened to you? You've gone native, have you? Are you a beachcomber, perhaps?
Oh, well, when in Rome, you know. I mean, no point looking like a tourist, is there?
No.
Poirot?
No.
Coming?
No.
So, what's all this about your writing your memoirs, then?
Yes, it's true, I'm afraid. Yes, I was made an offer which I could not refuse. But I must say it fills me with dread that Hercule Poirot is at last to be revealing all, well, almost all, to his adoring public. This is your car?
Yes, nifty little bus, isn't she?
You're sure it is a car? It looks like some sort of kitchen appliance. Women should beat their laundry against that.
Have you thought of a title yet?
I haven't even started writing it yet.
I know, but knowing you, I'm sure you've got some excellent ideas.
Well, the publisher came up with My Life in Crime by Hercule Poirot.
My Life in Crime, that's jolly good. Rather clever, isn't it? Yes, it could even be My Lifetime in Crime. I don't suppose you're going to mention that silly little episode in Normandy, are you? You know, the enormous Frenchwoman.
Oh, the enormous woman in North, of course I remember.
Yes, well, it's not that funny. I mean, think of my family. I mean, they've got to read this book of yours.
Well, think of my reputation. Writing your memoirs is not a joke, you know. The truth must be respected at all times. That is, unless...
Unless what?
Unless you get me out of this stupid house party. Take me to a hotel, forget about me. You know, I hate these things.
Yes, but you're going to thank me this time, Poirot.
You always say that. Remember the last time? What happened? The fireworks? The dead trombone player?
Yes, but this place is absolutely magnificent. Frankly nice bunch of Americans, too. They live here most of the year round.
Who's this insane enthusiasm? And the result is always the contrary. This time, for the first time, we got Americans.
Yes, but one of them is another author. I thought that you two could compare notes.
Another writer? Is there such a thing?
Martin Bloodhall, the playwright. He's actually a woman, though. Miss Janet Christie.
You mean it's undergone that frightful...
Oh, no. Good Lord, Poirot, nothing like that. No, dear me. No, she just works under the name of a man. Yeah, it's her, what you Belgians would call nom de plume. And then, of course, well, there's Charles Cartwright. Charles Cartwright, American actor. Yes, he played the inspector in Death Us Do Part, remember? And he was the naval commander in North Atlantic. He uses a limp sometimes.
A limp?
Yes, good character touch. That says a lot about a man, a limp does. And then there's Egg and her mother.
Egg? Her mother must be a hen.
Good Lord, what the blazes do you think you're playing?
Hastings, who are
yes, fine. Absolutely fine. Oh, excuse me. May I introduce Hercule Poirot? This is Jennifer Eastman.
How do you do?
John.
You can call me Egg if you like. Everybody does.
Egg? What timing?
Excuse me? Oh, you mean the accident? I'm really sorry. I'm in a bit of a rush. You're going to Crow's Nest?
Yes, we are, as a matter of fact.
Oh, good. Well, I'll see you tonight then. Mr. Poirot, it was nice, almost running into you. Oh, do you like the hat on or off? Oh, well, I'll see you later.
It's a rather hard-boiled little egg, if you ask me. I suppose you found her in the crow's nest.
Oh, no. The Crow's Nest is where we're staying. Yes, it's Charles Cartwright's house. Charles retired from show business to this place about a year ago. He refers to it as his cottage.
Well, his limp seems to have served him well.
Good afternoon, Miss Milray. May I introduce Hercule Poirot? Miss Milray, Charles's secretary.
Charles' assistant.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry.
I'm enchanted, madame.
Mademoiselle. Miguel will show you to your rooms.
She's rather touchy, old man. Not to worry.
You speak English? Oh, well, all right.
After you, old man.
Oh, who are those people?
Well, the man's Dr. Wallace Strange. He's an American neurologist. He's rather famous, and he runs a sanatorium in the country near here. And the woman next to him, well, that's Angela Stafford. You recognize her, of course.
No.
Oh, come off it, Poirot. I mean, even I know that Angela Stafford, the American actress, has been a leading light on Broadway for 20 years.
Well, I've not been entirely inactive during that time, you know. I do not need Broadway for my dramas. Who's that woman in long trousers there?
Oh, that's Miss Janet Christie, the playwright.
Oh.
No, you weren't listening. No, the thing is, it's a nom de plume, you see.
I'm pulling your
goes under
leg.
the-
I know. I was nom de plume.
Oh, Miguel. Where's Senor Cartwright? Donde el Senor Cartwright?
Allá, señor.
Ah. Oh, look, yes. Ahoy there, Captain Cartwright.
Look at him up there. Oh, this is great. Great.
You're having too much fun again, Charles. You're acting like a 20-year-old.
I feel like a 20-year-old. It must be those vitamins that Milray's been giving me.
Or it's the company you're keeping.
Or maybe it's the company I'm keeping.
Well, you know, it's an absolute mystery to me.
What's that?
Charles' adjustment to retired life. I thought for one that he would fight it tooth and nail.
Oh, well, this isn't exactly Devil's Island, is it? I mean, he has seen to all the amenities.
Yes, but, you know, to give up a career in both film and the stage, and then get rid of those wonderful places in both California and Paris.
And New York.
And New York. Now, there was a house. Did you ever see that one?
See it. I helped decorate it.
I'm sorry.
Charles and I were doing private lives on Broadway together at the time.
I forgot that you two were,
It's all right, Wally. It's easily forgotten.
By some people, perhaps. Who's that playing first mate?
Oh, that's Daisy Eastman's daughter. Egg, they call her. She'll be coming tonight.
There's your answer, Doctor, to the mystery of Charles Cartwright's successful retirement.
What, you mean that girl?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think so. She's just a child.
So is Charles. But then you should know that better than anyone.
Hello.
Oh, sir, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How do you, Doctor?
This
Yes,
must
it is,
be
yes.
the cute Poirot.
Madam, I have admired your art for more than 20 years.
This is Janet Christie.
How do you do?
This is Dr. Strange.
Pleasure.
Wonderful work.
And, yes, out there, of course, our host, Charles Cartwright.
Oh, hello.
Look, they're waving at us.
Hello. Oh, that's jolly nice. Hello.
That's Wally up there, and standing next to him is Angela.
Angela Stafford?
Mm-hmm. She's nice, a lot of fun. You're gonna like her. That's Hastings, and that's the great Perot.
Oh, and what makes Perot so great?
He happens to be the most famous detective in the world. Perot!
I guess that means there won't be any exciting crimes around here this weekend. No knives in the back or anything like that?
The murder weapon, Monsieur Poirot.
Oh, no. Just ruminating about this sword. It must have killed several people during battles. And here it is living out its retirement on the wall of a glamorous home.
Appearances can be deceiving, Monsieur Poirot. If I'm not mistaken, that's a prop.
A prop?
Yes.
Oh, you mean the...
Yes.
Yes.
Charles brandished it in the Royal Dragoon, I believe.
The Royal Dragoon?
Well, the two writers huddling together. Did you know that Monsieur Perot is a writer?
His memoirs, you mean? Yes, I've heard.
In order to be a writer, one must have written.
Absolutely. Well, Wally, will you look after the two writers while I mix us some drinks?
Do you also write for the cinema?
No, only for the theater.
Oh.
I'm a bit of a snob, I suppose. I write satires, brittle little comedies, that sort of thing. But I must confess that I've always had a particular fondness for murder.
Oh, good. Here you are. That, egg girl called while you were dressing. She wanted to know if she could bring someone else.
Did she say who?
No, she didn't.
Well, in some cases, you see, events come to people, not people to events. For example, one man can travel to the ends of the earth and nothing will ever happen to him, while another man can barely get across town without being involved in a hold-up or a car crash or whatever.
And you think I belong to the second category, of course?
Mr. Poirot, from what I understand, you don't exactly have to go looking around for a crime to solve.
Oh, I should say not. Tell me about that trombone player.
Or the fat French woman, perhaps.
Oh, here are the Eastmans.
Excuse me. Here, Ricardo and Goya. Good evening. How are you? Oh,
That mother and daughter, they live in Acapulco?
Yeah, charming. Yes, he's been quite well off, shipping, you know.
Shipping?
Ricardo, hello. How is your father?
Very well, thank you. He's in Washington these days.
Yes, well, give him my best wishes when you talk.
I certainly will.
Please come in.
Thank you.
Yes, over there. Look out for the tray. Martinis are okay. I know you love martinis.
Somebody I want you to meet. This is Hercule Poirot, the famous detective I've been telling you about. This is my mother, Daisy.
It's not possible. Such a young mother. Oh, I'm delighted.
I'm delighted to meet you, especially after your brush with death today.
Brush with death?
But you egg in your car.
Oh, the car! Oh, the whole of my life flashed before my eyes.
Well, it was all Hastings' fault.
I say. Yes, it was, come to think of it. It was all your fault,
Steady.
Who is the young gentleman?
Ricardo Montoya, Monsieur Perot.
Ricardo
Montoya. Pleasure to meet you.
Yes.
Be careful, Ricardo's a communist.
Freddie and Cynthia Dayton, the Reverend and Mrs. Babington.
Come on in. I'm making some drinks.
Oh, what a good idea.
Isn't nice? My dear, you look absolutely divine. Did you get that, Cynthia? Yes. You've been holding out on
Hi. Why, dear. Happy to see you.
Oh, Egg, have you met Angela?
No, I don't believe I have. You're the actress, aren't you?
Yes, I'm the actress. How do you do?
Oh, and my orchids, Charles. You can't imagine how they're blooming. It's a miracle.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
What's all this about miracles? I thought that was my domain.
Oh, we're talking about orchids, dear.
My dear, the cabinet.
She's lecturing you about manure again.
Always talking to me about manure. Bill Ray, take the tray.
much.
No.
Yes. It is all right, thank you very much. Mr. Washington. I certainly
Are the headlines going up and down?
No, Charles, you'll just have to wait for the fall collection. You can have a drink, Mother, but just one. Thank you, dear.
Not for me.
Charles, to you and your quaint little cottage here.
Charles! Right, sir.
Oh, it's giving me the menu, right? Let me see if I've got this right. We're going to have grilled sole, pheasant under glass. We're having chipped potato and a chocolate souffle. How does that sound?
Excuse me. What is it? Get in there. I'm afraid he's dead.
I'll come and visit you tomorrow morning. Okay, I'm terribly sorry. See that you get some good.
Extraordinary thing, Poirot. And you've been introduced to the poor chap, and then...
No, it was very sudden.
Mr. Poirot, could we speak to you for a moment, please?
Yeah?
You too, Hastings.
Oh, yes, of course, yes.
This way, please. Come in, please. Thank you, gentlemen. Right. Charles doesn't like it. Reverend Babington's death, I mean.
Well, of course he doesn't. It's most distressing.
And painful, too, judging from the poor man's expression.
Wally, did you ever see a man die like that before?
No, I haven't. But as a nerve specialist, I haven't seen that many people die before. Dr. Vega has probably seen many more deaths than I have.
Vega?
The doctor who was here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Wally, he wasn't here when the man died. He's just guessing what kind of a seizure it was.
What are you suggesting, Charles? Murder?
It's a possibility.
And how? With some new untraceable poison in a cocktail glass, perhaps?
Wally, it isn't funny. I mix those drinks myself. It is a possibility, isn't it, Perot?
Logically, I would say it is not a possibility. To kill an old man like that at a cocktail party, it would be extremely difficult, to say the least of it. Why? How would a murderer be sure that the old man would take that particular glass out of a row of identical glasses which were being passed at random on a tray? No. And the motive. What would the motive be? To kill an innocent old clergyman like that? No. He was not secretly wealthy by any chance, was he?
Quite the contrary. I should imagine.
Excuse me, but wealth doesn't necessarily have to be a motive.
Oh.
You ought to have his glass analyzed.
Well, it's a little late for that, Charles. Miss Milray has obviously had the glasses washed.
Yes, she had them all washed. All except this one.
Poirot, I thought you said it wasn't murder. Oh, sorry, murder.
Well, my logic tells me it's not murder, but my instinct keeps tapping me on the shoulder. I'm sure Charles knows what I mean. Yes, I don't see any harm in having the glass analyzed. Meanwhile, I think we ought to agree to keep this secret for the time being. There's no point in alarming the killer, if there is one. And I should hate to have a wonderful house party like this spoiled by the fact that one of the guests is accused of murder.
Hero. Hi. Well, the cat's out of the bag. Milray told everybody about the missing glass. But what did the analysis show?
Yes, what were the results, monsieur? Is there a murderer in our midst?
No, there's nothing unusual. There was nothing in the Reverend Babington's glass except gin and vermouth.
Of course there wasn't. It was absurd to think that there was. I think we can go now, Freddie. Miguel, fetch our bags.
You know, the analysis and everything, that was my idea.
I thought it was a great idea.
Well, I didn't.
Which one of us did you take for the murder, Monsieur Poirot?
There was no murder.
Well, what exactly were the doctor's findings?
Nothing untoward. Natural causes.
What about an autopsy?
Oh, come now, Egg. Really capture her imagination. Can't you talk her out of all this foolishness?
It was a possibility.
What? That one of us killed the old man? Yeah. I simply don't agree.
Neither do I. Thank you for your hospitality, Charles. It certainly wasn't dull.
Yes. Ricardo, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Charles, thank you for everything. Do come by when you have a chance.
Goodbye, Daisy. Egg.
Adios, Charles.
Goodbye, Egg.
I was afraid this would happen.
So was I. Don't you guys look dapper?
I said you.
Oh, thank you.
Are you not coming with us?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to beat a graceful retreat, as they say.
How do you mean?
I'm leaving here. I'm moving out.
What's this? Who's leaving?
I am. I'm going to abandon ship, as you said I would. I'm going to put the house up for sale.
Sell?
Yes, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to put up the place for sale. Anybody want to buy a house? Just check with Milray over there.
Don't you think you're being a bit hasty, Charles? I mean, just because somebody drops dead in your living room.
That had nothing to do with it. Well, maybe it does have something to do with it. I don't know. I just want to clear out. I want to cut my losses.
Charles, where are you going to run to this time?
Wally, I'm not running anywhere. I'm just getting out. Is that okay by you? Good night.
Good night.
$2 para la docena. Hey, hello.
What's all this about Charles?
What was in my heart?
Well, is it true about Charles going away?
Haven't you heard? He's already gone.
Oh, where?
I don't
Where's he
know.
gone?
It was all very sudden, very dramatic.
It's that Angela Stafford, isn't it? It's got to be her.
No, never.
He liked me. I know
I'm
he
sure
liked
he still
me.
does like. I think he still does like you. Of course he does.
Well, why has he gone away like this without saying anything?
He must have thought it was for the best.
Then it's Babington's murder. Of course. Oh, that's why he left. He's still upset about it.
Babington's death, perhaps, but I must remind you, mademoiselle, there is no murder.
Of course there is. I thought you were on our side.
Poirot is only on the side of one thing, and that is the truth. Oh, Hastings, my good native guide.
Poirot, we're cutting it awfully close, you know. Hello, Egg.
Good morning. You're going back to LA already?
Yes, the publisher beckons.
Oh, right, your memoirs.
Yes.
Listen. Charles has a house in LA. It's in Bel Air, I think.
If I run into him, I'll tell him that you send your warmest regards.
Just tell him that I'm terribly disappointed. Or heartbroken. Maybe you should tell him I'm heartbroken.
Heartbroken, are you sure?
Yes.
All right, heartbroken it is. Come, we can be late.
I'll get him back, you know. And I'll prove you wrong. It was murder.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Poirot. It's Egg. Oh, and Hastings is here, too. Say hi.
Hola, amigo. How goes the book?
Tell him that the words are flowing from my pen.
He says the words are flowing from my pen.
Glad to hear it.
Have you run into Charles yet?
No, I'm afraid I've been too busy.
Well, when you do, tell him that something rather odd is going on around here. That's why we called. Hastings and I just ran into each other and discovered we've been invited to the same house party tonight by Dr. Strange. Everybody has, it seems.
What do you mean, everybody?
Everybody who was at Charles's party. The Daytons, Angela Stafford, Janet Crisp, everybody, except you and Charles, and maybe Ricardo. The weird thing is, though, is that Dr. Strange won't say why.
Is it not for dinner?
Yes. But when I called him, he was being rather evasive. He said there was going to be a surprise or something like that, a revelation.
Well, perhaps somebody's going to jump out of a cake.
Don't you find this the least bit intriguing?
No, I'm sorry, I really don't.
Well, I do. It may be a chance to uncover a motive for Babington's murder.
There is no motive simply because there is no murder. And now, if you will excuse me, I have a book to write. I'm working so hard I can't even sleep anymore. It's terrible. Yes, and my kindest regards to our friend, the beachcomber. Goodbye. Oh, la, la.
Buenos tardes.
Strange old place, isn't it?
Okay, please. Oh, and don't start delving into everyone's past. There's nothing that spoils the appetite like a polite accusation of murder.
Yes, well, they nearly murdered me in that car.
Buenas noches.
Well, come in. Egg, how are you? Daisy, fashionably late as usual. Hastings? How'd you do? Oh, you know, it's too bad Mr. Poirot couldn't be here. How's the book coming?
Oh, wonderfully well from what he says. The words, what did he
Flowing.
say? Oh, flowing from his pen, yes.
Flowing.
Who would make? Oh, I know. If you were the only girl in the world. Yeah. What are you doing there?
Well, see who it is.
Sí, señor. Sí.
I'm Ricardo Montoya.
Pase. Un momento, por favor. Señor Ricardo Montoya.
Montoya? Well, show him in.
Sí, sí.
Cardo, what's he doing here?
Didn't you invite him, Egg?
No.
Oh.
I did not. No, I
Well, we'll see. Hello, everyone. Ricardo, nice to see you.
I'm awfully sorry for barging in like this, but you see, I had a bit of an accident down the road from here.
Well, there is always room for one more. Rosa, another chair, please, for Mr. Montoya.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Accident?
Yeah.
What happened?
Nothing to worry about. It just smashed up the car, and I couldn't get it started again.
Just cruising through the neighborhood, were you?
Yes, just cruising.
What is it?
It's the sanatorium about Mrs. Rushbridger.
Mrs. Rushbridger? Huh? Well, that's quite a mouthful, Carlos. You're a talented fellow, a first-class butler. Isn't he, Rosa? Will you excuse me, please?
Sir.
He's dead.
Why do I put do not disturb? Oh, hello.
Are you all right?
Yes.
Then why didn't you answer the phone?
I unplugged it. I'm trying to ride.
Well, I thought you were dead. Thank you, officer. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Perot.
You thought I was dead? Why?
It's happened again. This time it's Wally. Wally's dead.
Was he murdered?
Well, I don't know. I'm flying down there immediately. Please, Perot, I need you down there. Won't you come with me, please?
Ah, gentlemen, I'm Colonel Matteo. It is an honor to meet you both. I have seen many of your films, Senor Cartwright.
Yes.
And of course, famous Hercule Poirot.
It's not the first time we meet, you know. The Managua affair?
Ah, what a memory. I was only a corporal then.
Yes, but like Napoleon, a very talented corporal.
Thank you. Oh, I must tell you something right now.
Please.
My wife and I think you were magnifico, North Atlantic.
Oh, thank
very,
you.
very good.
Yes, good. Thank you very much.
They don't make movies like that anymore.
No, I guess they don't.
Did you see it?
Huh? Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
So when is your next film?
There's not going to be one for a while.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Don't be sorry.
And especially to meet you under such circumstances.
Yeah, this is terrible. Terrible.
Were you a friend of Dr. Strange's?
Yes, he was my friend. What happened?
He was poisoned.
What?
By his, how do you say it? His butler.
Butler? No, that's not possible, sir. I mean, Roberto was with him for
Oh,
years.
no. Roberto's out on a vacation. This is a new man. In fact, he slipped away from us last night after we questioned him. I know how that seems, but we had 3 men posted.
Did he know that you suspected him?
We did not suspect of him until after we questioned him. Now we know he's a very clever butler. He always wore gloves. no fingerprints.
What poison was used?
Benzotin. It is very common and very deadly. They use it to spray it on orchids and such.
Orchids? Where did I hear that before?
With your permission, may we see the butler's room?
Oh, yes. Please follow me. Miss Stafford thinks that he may have escaped through a secret passage. She says Dr. Strange mentioned there was one in the house somewhere.
You never told me about it. Did you find one?
No, not yet.
Tell me, how was the poison administered?
We don't know. He was drinking wine. We have had the glass analyzed, but there was nothing.
Just the same, just like Babington.
Ah, Babington, yes. Yes, I have heard of this. From this young woman called Egg. Yeah. But I think it's a coincidence. You yourself were satisfied it was not a murder.
Didn't seem to be.
Well, as you can see, the butler left nothing behind. Hey.
I'm so glad you've come.
Yes.
I felt so horrible.
Yes.
So, Mr. Poirot, what do you think now?
You're referring, I presume, to the death of the Reverend Babington.
I refer to his murder. You don't believe any of this nonsense about the butler, do you?
It is not nonsense, senorita.
It's not a coincidence either. I'll tell you what I think. I think Dr. Strange invited the same people to dinner because he suspected one of them of Babington's murder. But before he could say anything, the poor man was murdered himself.
Muchas gracias. This is Dr. Strange's diary. Just a few lines for yesterday. Party tonight. Hope all goes well. I'm worried about M, though. Don't like the look of things.
Can I see that, please?
Yes.
Worried about M? Who could that be?
Ricardo Montoya put in an appearance last night, did he not?
Yes, he did.
So did Carlos Morales.
Who?
Carlos Morales. The butler.
It's really all I can tell you. It all happened so suddenly.
And what about Wally? Was he nervous, preoccupied, anything? I mean, irritable or...
No, not in the least. In fact, he was in very good spirits. He was even laughing and joking with the butler, that Carlos character.
Laughing and joking with the butler? That's hard for me to believe. When was that?
After Carlos told him there was a telephone call from the sanatorium. It was about a Mrs. Rushbridger. I remember, because Wally was teasing him about mispronouncing the name. Then he said he was a good butler, or something like that.
Doesn't sound like Wally, you know? What was that name?
Mrs. Rushbridger, I think. We could go look her up.
Just you and me? We make a good team, don't we?
I think so.
You heard nothing? You saw nothing?
Yes, I have already told you this.
I know you have, but the young gentleman said he has his accident here. Beneath El Castillo, he said. And what is that if it's not El Castillo?
Yes, but that happened farther up the road. Listen, all I know is that this man pushes his car into here. And he told me he had a crash. Then I look out and I see the front light of the car was broken. Then he asked me if he could leave his car here, and I said yes, that's all.
You know, come. Listen, I hear that there is a, how shall I put it, private entrance into the grounds of El Castillo.
I don't know anything about it, sir.
You mean in all the time that you've been here, you've never seen anybody come in or go out from here into the grounds of El Castillo?
No, sir.
You've been extremely helpful to us. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, one final question. At what time did the young man fetch his car? You don't know.
I don't know. When I came this morning, the car was gone.
And when you left last night, the car was here.
Would you like me to drive?
No, I'm fine. So go on. You were telling me about the other possibility.
Well, this could be a long shot. But what if the Rushbridger call was nothing more than just a code of some kind? I mean, what if Wally hired someone to look into the Babington death like a private investigator while everyone was spending the weekend at El Castillo?
You mean you were searching everybody's houses?
Well, the main suspect's house. He finds something, then he calls back with the agreed-upon message. Mrs. Rushbridger has arrived. The butler delivers it, and Wally breaks out in a grin. He's solved the murder. Huh? He's feeling great. He says to the butler, "You're a great butler," or something like that. What do you think?
So why'd the butler disappear?
Yeah, why did the butler disappear? Well, maybe he's got something on him. I don't know. It was just a thought.
Hello? Anyone here? They are having supper, sir. Just like I said. Are you sure this is all right with Colonel Mateo?
Of course. Thank you for your help so far. Buenas tardes, senor.
Poirot, I'm awfully sorry, but I still don't quite understand why we're going to the library. I mean, nobody went in there that night.
With the possible exception of the butler. He must have disappeared somewhere. After all, he's not a magician.
Yes, but in the library, just a minute. The secret passage.
Have you ever known a secret passage that does not start in a library?
Well, now you come to mention it,
No, of course not. We'll start here, because the safe is nearly always behind a picture, and the secret passage is nearly always behind a book.
What have you touched? What? Good Lord! After you, old man.
Every time there's danger, your manners become impeccable.
Well, thank you very much. Are you having trouble? I wonder what this is for.
It doesn't work. Come on, follow me. It's all we can do now. Hello? Be careful. Here, there's a step.
Oh, I see
what
what you mean.
I never thought I'd end my life as a cinema usherette. It's
pipes.
I hope there's nothing electrified here. Oh, looks absolutely. Oh. Okay, right. No, it won't stay. No, we'll have to go back.
Oh, I second that. After you, old man.
Oh, so polite. It was the same story with you.
I wonder if there are any rats here.
Not one more word out of you, Hastings. Do you hear me? Not one word!
It's not my fault.
Who said it would be different this time? Such nice people, interesting people, American people. It was you! I'm never going to come out with you again. This is the last time. Do you know?
Oh, I think there's someone coming.
No, there's someone. What a fool. Come on. Carlos Morales you were on your way to meet.
No. It was me. Novio. My boyfriend.
Your boyfriend?
Yes. He worked just below here at the cafe.
Oh, he is perhaps a waiter.
No. He works in the bar.
Right. Dry your tears on that. That's right. And on the night of the murder, were you on your way to see him then?
I wanted to. But then I hear someone coming. So I went back to my room.
At what time was this?
Almost 10 o'clock.
Did you happen to see who it was?
No.
No.
But from the footsteps, I could tell it was a woman.
How?
Well, whoever it was, she's wearing very short heels. Because they sound like that.
Poirot, Hastings, I thought you disappeared. I was just about to call the police.
They weren't here a minute ago. I looked.
Yeah, you're quite right. You're very observant, senor. Thank you very much.
Egg told me you might be here. I'd like to talk to you if I could.
Yes, well, now that you have found us out, of course. For the moment, could you sit there just for a second? I just want to ask this young lady one more question. What was this famous butler like? I mean, did you have an opportunity to talk with him?
No, senor. He was very private. We only saw him when it was time to serve the dinner.
Well, thank you very much. You've been very helpful. Thank you. Oh, you better take this. It's very dark in there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Gracias. Yes, thank you. Forgive me for...
Monsieur Poirot, I am sorry. I suppose I'm getting a bit frantic, but it's about Egg and all this murder business.
Yes?
You see, she sees it as a sort of lark, an escapade with Charles. But quite frankly, I'm worried.
About the escapade with Charles or about the murder?
Well, the murder, of course. You see, Egg is so frightfully impulsive that once she sets her mind on something, there's no stopping her. It's like a kink in her personality. She gets it from her father's side of the family, of course. Well, I'm afraid I'm partly to blame as well. Oh, I do try to be firm with her, but... Well, take today. Now, the first thing I know, she's rushing off to some sanatorium to see that patient. You know, that Miss...
Mrs. Rushbridger?
Yes, that's the one. And right now she's with that poor Mrs. Babington, awaiting the results of some sort of autopsy.
The exhumation, yes, of course.
Do you know what she said to me as she was rushing off this morning? And she wasn't teasing either. She said that she was thinking of coming back here and laying in wait because the killer always returns to the scene of the crime. Now, can you imagine?
Was she going to take some cheese and wine there? I'm sorry, I know, I shouldn't have said that. It's a joke.
Senor Poirot, a telephone call.
Oh, thank you. Poirot. I see. Yes. I see, tomorrow morning. All right. We will be there, yes. Bye. That was Charles. Our suspicions are confirmed. The Reverend Babington was poisoned with benzoatine. Same glasses that were used during the cocktail party.
Yes, they are.
And you, Miss Milray, were the last person to handle them. But of course, nobody could have tampered with Stephen Babington's drink. Nobody. Oh, except Mrs. Babington.
Mrs. Babington? What a terrible thought. You don't seriously think that she's the killer, do you?
No, I'm thinking aloud. If only Dr. Strange had been murdered first, then we might be onto something.
Why do you say that?
Because at least we would have a motive. Who in his right mind would kill an old gentleman like Stephen Babington? Whereas a doctor, that's quite different. A doctor has many professional secrets. He also has the capacity of putting people away, of isolating them if he deems that they are dangerous to themselves or to other people. No one can imagine a lot of reasons for killing a famous neurologist.
Wally still wouldn't have been the first victim in the case.
I should very much like to know the reason why.
He didn't drink cocktails. He couldn't stand it.
He couldn't stand cocktails. Oh, what a case. What are you writing? There's nothing to write about. This is so stupid. It's so obvious to me that both these crimes are two halves of the same crime. In order to understand one part, one has to understand the other, and therefore, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, what do we do now?
I'm open to any suggestion, mademoiselle.
Why don't we separate into little groups and ask some questions, in a friendly way, of course. I mean, maybe some of us will turn up something.
Excuse me, but shouldn't that be left to the police?
Oh, come on, Mother. How often do we get a chance to solve a real crime? Remember, you're still a suspect yourself. I guess we all are.
You know, I could be fired for this.
Why? You have done nothing.
Well, that's exactly why I could be sacked. Listen, Poirot, if you're so certain that one of the guests is the murderer, why don't we round him up and question him one by one?
I can be certain of only one thing, my friend, and that is that there was no deliberate murder of the Reverend Babington. As for rounding them up, we can do that at a later date. Buenos tardes, señorito. This is Colonel Matteo. I'm Hercule Poirot. We telephoned you earlier? Yes, yes.
Please wait, please. Mrs. Rushbridger.
Is she ever more lucid?
Very rarely. It has been diagnosed as catatonic. That's a form of schizophrenia.
Yes. Was it you who telephoned Dr. Strange that night?
Yes, sir.
The next question may seem peculiar to you. Was there anything about what you said which might be construed as amusing?
Not at all.
Oh, one final question. Does anybody ever ask after Mrs. Rushbridger, apart from her family, I presume?
No, sir. No one.
Well, Charles and Mademoiselle Haig seem to have lost interest in their area.
We sure have. They're off playing policemen with the rest of the suspects.
Yes, Colonel, we have stirred the pot. We shall soon know what comes to the surface.
There she is. Go get her.
Oh, I don't know how I let you talk me into this.
Come on, Mother. All you gotta do is say you're thinking of updating my wardrobe. Then ask her about Babington.
Well, what about you? That Freddie Dayton is a bad character.
Oh, come on, Mother. We'll be at the yacht club. Go on.
Come on.
She secretly loves this, you know.
Yeah. Well, are you sure you want to go through with this?
If Freddie Dayton is as fond of women and drink as you say he is, no problem. Just don't let yourself be flattered by that Angela Stafford.
There is a young lady here to see you, sir.
A young lady? Then it couldn't be my lovely wife, could it?
Well, what a wonderful surprise.
I hope I'm not intruding.
No, not at all. What can I do for you?
Charles recommended that I talk to you. It's about Mother. Well, not really. Actually, it's about me. You see, right now, Mother's in your shop, determined to buy me a whole new wardrobe. And she doesn't realize how tight things are financially. I've even been thinking about going to work myself.
No.
Yes. And, well, since fashion has always been an interest of mine.
Of course. Of course. Of course. Come in. I was just about to order us a drink.
This one's cut very simply. That's rather elegant, don't you think?
Yes, it is quite nice. God knows Egg could use some simplification. I suppose you've heard the latest about poor Richard Babington. The autopsy results, I mean.
Yes, I did.
You know him from before, didn't you?
No.
Well, I mean, you met him before. I think he mentioned it that night.
No, I never saw him before in my life. You must be thinking of someone else. Oh. I'm very grateful to him and poor Dr. Strange, though.
Really? Why?
Well, as long as the case remains unsolved, there's just half a chance I murdered them myself. So now I find all sorts of dreadful women coming in to order clothes from me, just for the sensation. It's silly, isn't it?
Reverend's one thing. Nobody murders reverends. A doctor, it's a different story.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
Got too much power, if you ask me. Lock a man up. Him from hell. Call it taking a cure. I'm not about to take that damn cure. I don't care what my wife says.
I imagine she can be very insistent.
I would love to know what goes on in that precious sanatorium of his. But that's what they want.
Dr. Strange and your wife?
And others. Others are watching me too, like that rabbit-faced woman. One who writes the plays. Want to tell me what she was doing in my room the night of...
The night of the murder?
Found her poking around. Looks more like a weasel.
Did you tell the police?
The police? That's all I need.
Did you tell anybody? What is it? What's wrong?
Somebody put you up to this, didn't they?
No.
Was it my lovely wife?
No, I just wanted to talk to you myself.
How poor you are, yeah. Well, you're good. You're very good. You studied with a master, didn't you? Charles Cartwright, man of 1,000 faces.
Do you mean to say that you actually drew up a list with our names on it? Charles, you have gotten carried away again.
This is important to me. Wally was our friend. Isn't there anything you can tell me that maybe you noticed?
Not that I haven't already told the police.
What about this Carlos character?
I don't know, I hardly noticed him. I mean, he just sort of blends into the wall, if you know what I mean. How about that other guy, that Montoya? Now, he made an unexpected entrance. A new method of gate crashing, you could call it.
Excuse me, ma'am, you have another visitor.
Miss Cresp. Good afternoon, my dear.
Charles?
Charles.
Janet and I are putting on one of her plays, Two-Way Traffic. You remember
Yes,
it?
I do.
We're putting it on for all the big wigs at the consulate. Should be lots of fun.
Excellent.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything.
Oh, don't be
Does it look like it?
silly. Charles is here in the role of a detective. This way, Charles can kill two birds with one stone. It's a rather unfortunate choice of words, isn't it? Would you like some coffee? Why don't you pour us some?
I'm sure.
Okay. We were just talking about that dreadful night at Agatha.
Maybe you noticed something
About what?
about the murder.
I'm afraid not.
Oh, don't be so secretive, Jan. I know what she's going to do. She's going to expose all of us in a book about the case.
Well, are there any revelations of any kind that we should see?
Forgive me.
I guess you didn't like the coffee.
Now, don't be funny, Charles. Now, we're all edgy about this. It could have happened anyway. You all right?
Yes, I'm fine.
Now, I, for one, think that it's time that we got everything out into the open. I mean, we should all get back together again, including that Hercule Poirot.
He apparently had the same idea. I just spoke with him.
And?
Well, he saw the ad for the play and decided to have a little party for us at his hotel this afternoon. Everyone's invited, he said.
I wish to toast Madame Stafford and Miss Crisp, who have collaborated in a wonderful play, which I'm sure will be an enormous success, and to which we will flock in our droves. The play.
The play.
The play. Why don't you drink? Look, we have drunk and we are not dead, are we?
I don't think so.
Oh, no. There is nothing in here except some bubbles and the juice of the fruit. That's all. I guarantee that. You have the word of Hercule Poirot.
That's good enough for me.
Charles, I could trust you. I knew that.
You, Egg.
Thank you very much. So, the play? Have you noticed how champagne dissolves all tensions?
Well, you can't really blame us, Monsieur Poirot. Not after the last two parties.
Yes. And now that we're all here, what's the real reason for this one? Come on, Mr. Poirot.
No, you let this happen. You killed Charles!
It's right. It was I who killed Charles Cartwright. But you know, Miss Haig, there's a little trick I learned in the Far East. To kill people and to bring them straight back to life again. Charles, that was a wonderful performance. Stand up now and take the applause. Charles? Charles!
Hero!
You are a tricky customer.
You monster. Unforgivable.
Well, I don't think it was that bad. I mean...
No. Don't blame him. It was my fault. I simply had to go through with this demonstration in order to prove one point, which I did. And that is that the human eye, in this case there are 10 of us, 20 human eyes, cannot look at two different things at the same time.
What does that mean?
Well, let us say that there had been poison in Charles's glass. When the police came to investigate the glass, would they find the poison in it? No, they would not, because that is not the glass that was in Charles's hand. This one is. And while you are all rushing towards Charles, worried about him, I had time to switch glasses without anybody noticing. Which proves it could be done. It is exactly what the murderer did on 2 occasions. The first time in the crow's nest, and the second time, of course, in El Castillo.
Then you know who the murderer is.
No, not quite. But I do know that that murderer may strike again at any minute. So that I beg all of you, if you have any knowledge about either of the 2 murders in question, which you have not yet told me, please to come forward without delay. I beg this of you, and I'm being utterly serious. No?
Excuse me. Thank you very much.
What is it?
Telegram for you, old man.
Forgive me. must see you as quickly as possible. Stop. I have important information about the death of Dr. Strange. Signed, Margaret Rushbridger.
Margaret? M. I'm worried about M. That's what Wally said in his diary.
Yes, you're quite right. Charles, I think you ought to go there and see her. Tell Colonel Matteo about this, and when you have done that, go with Charles, if you will, to the sanatorium, Hastings. Thank you very much.
And what about you?
Me? No, I'm afraid I'm not going anywhere. Things are now of such complexity that my duty is to stay here and think.
Talk to you, Mr. Poirot. Ricardo's got a confession to make.
A confession? Please come in. Now, what is the nature of this confession?
It's not what you think, Monsieur Poirot. I'm not the killer. But, well, Egg has convinced me to come forward with some other things.
Oh, well, I think Mademoiselle Egg is quite right. But why should I think that you are the killer?
Because of the way he turned up at El Castillo. But the truth is, Dr. Strange asked him to do just that.
Yes, he wrote that I should fake the accident and then come up to El Castillo. He said he couldn't put the reasons in writing, but that he would explain to me later.
And, of course, he did not explain to you later.
Well, he never had the chance.
He never had the chance. Have you got a copy of that letter?
Nope. He wrote that I should destroy it.
Oh, he wrote that you should...
There's more. Go on, Ricardo.
Well, right after I was questioned by Colonel Matteo, and that was around 10 o'clock.
Yes.
I went to pick up my coat. Miss Crisp was there. She was looking for a shawl or something like that.
Yes.
Anyway, I was putting on my jacket when something fell out of it.
Well, what fell out of it?
I didn't actually see it fall, you understand?
What was it?
She picked it up and handed it back to me. It was a newspaper cutting about benzotine and what a deadly poison it is.
She must have planted that clipping on Ricardo. Don't you remember what Freddie Davis said, how he caught her sneaking around the house that night? I'll bet she's the murderer.
But what motive would she have for killing the Reverend Buddington? She didn't even know him before the party. She didn't know Dr. Strange either. No.
Maybe she's psychotic. A man-hater.
Ooh.
Clever people are often crazy, aren't they?
Oh, dear Egg. Excuse me. Poirot. Not quite so fast, Hastings. What? Oh, la la. Yes, no. An old man. Yeah, I see. I understand. Yes, I understand. I'll see you later. Thank you very much, Hastings. Bye. Mrs. Rushbridger has been killed.
No.
Yes.
How?
Early this morning, she received through the mail a box of chocolates, liqueur-filled, benzotine.
Did she have a chance to say anything?
No. I think it is probably because she said nothing that she was murdered.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Neither do I. What about the telegram?
Oh, the telegram was delivered, according to Hastings, by a small boy who received it from an old groundsman at the sanatorium who saw it drop from a window enclosed in a 500 peso note, and the small boy was apparently allowed to keep the change on condition he delivered the telegram.
I'm afraid I still don't understand. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Do you often play happy families while you're trying to solve the case,
Huh?
Mr. Poirot?
Oh, you know, it's a hangover from my childhood. When I was very young, I started doing this in order to teach myself concentration, and I've never stopped the habit.
So what does Mr. Mugg have to say about it?
Mr. Mugg, the milkman, ding, ding. Oh, I remember.
Charles Edward W. Muggins. That was his real name before he became an actor.
Charles's real name was Muggins. Really?
Probably looked like this, too. So does he have any ideas?
Not that I know of, anyway.
Where does that leave us, Poirot?
Do you mind? I'm sorry to be so antisocial, but I really must concentrate as rarely before.
Do you think it'll be safe to go to the play tomorrow night?
Huh?
Two-way traffic. We've all been invited to the dress rehearsal.
Where have you been invited?
The dress rehearsal.
The dress rehearsal?
What's wrong?
Have I been blind? The dress rehearsal. Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, Charles. Mr. Cartwright isn't here.
I know, but they will be along presently.
They?
Yes, all of them, including the police. Mrs. Rushbridger has been murdered this afternoon. I just heard from Charles and from Hastings.
How was she killed?
She was poisoned, mademoiselle, with benzotine. I wonder if you could make a large pot of tea. I have a feeling these proceedings may last a little time.
Yes.
Do that, mademoiselle, for what you're seeking to destroy is evident. To reconstruct a crime, to make sense of it for the layman, the judiciary, and even under certain circumstances, believe it or not, for the criminal himself, is the solemn duty of the detective. Therefore, he must construct his case like a house of cards, making absolutely sure that it will resist every attempt to knock it down. So, my friends, mes amis, let us begin from the beginning with the murder of the Reverend Babington. You were right, Mademoiselle Haig, and I was wrong for once. Both you and Charles Cartwright believed that the Reverend Babington had been murdered. I did not think it was possible to impose on a victim a particular glass on a tray full of identical glasses.
Isn't all this rather obvious, Monsieur Poirot?
Well, it may be to you, sir, madam, not to me. The second crime was announced to me by Charles Cartwright himself in Los Angeles, and I immediately assumed that it was two parts of the same crime. But who could possibly, in light of this, have been there to murder the Reverend Babington? Well, there was Miss Milray. The other was Charles Cartwright. But neither of these two were at the second murder. At the second murder, the main suspect was Carlos Morales, the butler, who seems to have disappeared into thin air. Although there was one guest who attracted more than usual attention to himself, Senor Montoya. When we were presented to one another by Miss Haig, she referred to you as a communist. She said this laughing. I smiled when I heard it, until I noticed a look of overt hostility between you and the Reverend Babington.
We had our ups and downs, Monsieur Poirot. It was mainly about Central America. Nothing serious, though, only arguments. In any case, I'm not actually a communist.
But my regard for personal liberty is such that I don't care what you are, so long as it doesn't culminate in murder, of course. However, your performance at the second party was most unusual, too. You arrived in a disheveled condition, saying you'd had an accident nearby. And then you revealed that this whole scenario was the idea of none other than Dr. Strange. In written instructions to you, when asked to produce them, you said they were destroyed. And you did not convince either by the newspaper clipping which fell from your pocket, the subject of which was, of course, benzoatine.
Somebody must have planted it on him. We already told you that.
Yes, very well, Mademoiselle Haig, but by whom? Perhaps Miss Crisp can cast some light on this, or is it all too obvious? Actually, I rather agree with you, Mademoiselle Haig. Everything that Montoya has said and done has been too convenient to be convincing. I think that the more extreme and far-fetched his story is, the more I tend to believe him. You see, a really clever criminal would realize that only someone who was present at both murders would be suspect. And now, who was not present at the second murder? Well, there was, of course, Miss Milray, there was Mrs. Babington, there was Charles, and there was last but not least, myself. Could anybody have given the impression that they were not there while being there? This is where the mysterious butler, Mr. Morales, comes in. He behaved in a very strange way, arriving only minutes before the meal began in order to serve it. The room was dimly lit by candlelight. The butler walked with a pronounced stoop, probably due to some arthritic conditions. And if Rosa, the parlor maid, was intrigued by the butler, she was even more so when he answered the phone and brought a message to Dr. Strange. There was nothing at all amusing about this message. It came from the nurse who was attending Mrs. Rushbridger in the sanatorium. Nothing amusing, and yet Dr. Strange chuckled and kidded with the butler. "You're a steady fellow," he said, "and a first-class butler." It was almost as though they shared a private joke. There was, in fact, a private joke between them. The nature of that private joke, well, when the time came for the butler to disappear, it was not terribly difficult. For one reason, he did not exist. And that was the nature of the surprise which Dr. Strange had promised Mademoiselle Haig. At a given moment, the butler was to straighten his back, take off his disguise, and there in all his glory was to stand
Charles Cartwright?
the man of 1,000 faces.
Well, thank you very much, bro, but you're wrong. I don't do that kind of work anymore. I've retired. I couldn't fool anybody.
You think you're fooling me now?
I don't know and I don't care, Poirot. How can you pretend to know everything that's happened when you weren't even there?
Even a reputable critic has been known to leave after the first act. It's never prevented him from writing a review.
Yeah.
But there is a small difference. I returned for the third act to see if my review was watertight.
May I shoot some holes in it?
Yes.
What would have happened had Carlos Morales the Disguise been discovered earlier?
Oh, well, then you would have had your usual round of applause. You're quite used to that, and general laughter. And you would have been invited to join the dinner party as a guest. Charles, your pride in your work is enough to prevent you allowing that disguise to be penetrated. Dr. Strange knew this, and he chuckled in advance as he imagined the general gasp of surprise. Unfortunately, his gasp of surprise came first when he took a lethal dose of benzotine. After that, everything was as easy as it had been during the death of the Reverend Babington. You switched the glasses in the manner that I demonstrated during my cocktail party. Then you were interviewed briefly by Colonel Matteo. You packed your bags and you disappeared forever through the secret passage in the library.
And Dr. Strange's letter to Ricardo?
Yeah, what about that, Poirot? Did Carlos Morales write that note too?
I'm extremely clever, as you know, but I'm not a clairvoyant. I have no idea how you addressed when you wrote that, nor indeed when you planted that newspaper article in the pocket of Senor Montoya, which was discovered, of course, by Miss Crisp, a woman of insatiable curiosity with a particular fondness for murder. Rosa Sanchez, the parlor maid, was leaving the servants' quarters when she heard a noise and was forced to hide. This noise turned out to be Miss Crisp poking about in the library. Both Mr. Dayton and Senor Montoya claimed that she was behaving in a suspicious manner, obedient, no doubt, to the mongoose instinct for finding out. But let us not be too hard on Miss Crisp. She was the only one, Charles, out of all of us to really alarm you, because she was the only one to really notice that butler. And there was something about him which was strangely familiar. The voice, she didn't know what it was. But things really came to a head a little later when you visited Angela Stafford's apartment. You were not there to help in solving the murders. That would be too much to ask. You were merely trying to find out if any suspicions had been aroused about yourself. Then something happened which in itself was insignificant, but it became crucial. You offered our friend Miss Crisp a cup of coffee. At that moment, she noticed on your wrist a scar, which was the same scar she had already noticed on the wrist of Carlos Morales. You see, Charles, there are no disguises which are completely impenetrable. She confided this in me after your magnificent performance during my cocktail party. She was terrified that she might be the next victim.
I want my day in court.
As defense attorney?
I never played a defense attorney. May I?
May the prosecution have one more moment of your time. You see, Charles, there were 3 murders, not 2.
3? They all can't be me.
Mrs. Rushbridge? Charles played yet another one of his galaxy of wonderful characters. An old groundskeeper of the sanatorium. He even tipped a small boy to take a message to the telegraph office. You see, with that instinct which made of him a great actor, he felt curiously that this net was closing around him. He even sent Mrs. Rushbridger a gift of liqueur-filled chocolates. The liqueur in question being, of course, benzotine. The idea was that Mrs. Rushbridger had been killed because she knew too much. In point of fact, the poor darling, she knew nothing at all, was incapable of knowing anything.
Do you rest your case?
My case rests.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, I'd like Monsieur Hercule Poirot to take the stand.
Is that your famous limp?
What do you know about my limp? Huh?
Everybody knows about your limp. It's world famous.
Oh. Monsieur Poirot, what is the motive for the crimes in question?
Oh, yes, you had to kill Dr. Strange because he'd been looking after you for a very long time. The official reason given for your premature retirement from the entertainment business was a certain nervous fragility when overworked. This is very far from the truth, of course. The truth is that there were paranoid and psychotic elements in your makeup which could at any moment lead you to unreasonable or even violent behavior. Dr. Strange knew this. He also knew the secret about the scar on your wrist. It was due to an attempt at suicide. I'm worried about M, he wrote. I don't like it.
No. M, Margaret, Mateo, Montoya, Milray. Do I have to remind you that my name is Charles Cartwright?
A name given you by a film studio who deemed that Edward W. Muggins was inconsistent with a romantic lead.
And we must be consistent in everything, mustn't we? I'm famous for being consistent. What is the reason for Babington's death to be consistent in logic?
That is a good question. It is not consistent in the everyday sense of the word, but in the sense of the theater, it would be called, I think, a dress rehearsal. In fact, Babington happened to die, but it could have been anyone. There was no motive, you understand, apart from a purely technical one. You wanted to see if the poison worked, if it was possible to change the glasses. It was possible. Therefore, it was a wonderful dress rehearsal for the real premiere, which was the necessary death of Dr. Strange. I say necessary because, Charles, he was the only person that could put you away. This is monstrous! We will see how monstrous it is. I will ask Miss Milray, excuse me. Now, you see, Charles, Miss Milray, when she found that orchid spray in the gardener's hut, she suspected that you were the murderer. And when you gave that wonderful performance at my party, Charles, there's one face I wanted to see at the very moment of your death. It was that of Miss Milray. For a moment, she was profoundly shocked and then gave way to the deepest despair. She was torn, you see, between her love for you and her horror of what you had done. I followed her to the garden shed. She tried to destroy the evidence. I'm afraid, Charles, she did not succeed. That evidence is now with the police, as well as your passport, in which is clearly marked the time you returned here in order to kill Dr. Strange. And you returned to Los Angeles by the very next plane in order to break the news to me in a voice of anguish.
Who are these people? What are you doing in my house? Get out of here! Why do you let these people arrive here?
Charles,
Why are you all staring at me?
Charles! It's a wrong performance. This is the moment to show dignity. It's a moment to show us what you are made of.
You mean like Sidney Carton in The Only Way? Smiling his way to the scaffold.
Yes, if you wish. Except that here there's no scaffold, there's just peace of mind, Charles. And Charles, an infinity of roles to play.
It's a pity you didn't see me as the groundskeeper. I had the audience of one small boy. I used my lip. Wherever they take me, I'll be out in a year. I'm going to give the greatest performance of my life in that sanatorium. Level-headed, rational, and above all, consistent. Huh? Good. Do you think I'm going to struggle? Well, you're wrong. You can put away your straitjackets. You can put away your hypodermic needles. You're not going to need any of them. I'm going to tell you one thing, senors. I may be charming, debonair, and handsome. I may even at times be dangerous. But I am not, I repeat, not crazy.
Been a fool, haven't I?
No, mademoiselle, merely young. And youth is often mesmerized by age, as age is mesmerized by youth. Don't you think so, Comrade Montoya?
Please, Monsieur Poirot, I'm not even a socialist. Really.
Who cares what you are?
I'm really sorry about all of this, Ricardo.
So am I.
I must congratulate you, Monsieur Poirot. That was a brilliant summation in there. Quite a display. I should think it would make a wonderful conclusion to your book.
My book? Oh, I'd forgotten all about my book. Why not our book?
I beg your pardon.
You know, modern crime is so busy. There's a body falling out of a cupboard one minute, another rising from the lake. You never know where you are. I have no time. Now, if I had a collaborator, someone with a mongoose instinct, what do you think of that?
I think it's a grand idea. Are you serious?
I'm absolutely serious.
Good Lord, Poirot.
What is the matter now?
It's just occurred to me.
What?
When that poison cocktail was handed round.
Yes.
It could have been me.
I thought of an even worse thought.
What was that?
It could have been me.